What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some crazy battles in the Open Ultra League running a triple buffed Aquatail theme team with Drapion, Goodra and Palkia. And let me tell you now, Palkia came in clutch so many times throughout these battles, it was absolutely insane. I gained around 150 elo in my first 3 sets with this team, although I will be honest, I did drop slightly after that, but this team was still very solid for a theme team. So with that being said, let's just get straight into the question of the day. How much Stardust do you have right now? Also, do you have a certain threshold that you'll never choose to go below? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, we lead Drapion into Steelix. So, of course, Poison Sting going to be triple resisted, but this is where a boost to the attack of Aquatail is actually going to be quite helpful for us. We go for the first one. That doesn't do that much damage, of course, but it will add up over time, and Drapion can spam these Aquatails very quickly. They go for Breaking Swipe. Unfortunately, they do get a debuff to my attack, which isn't ideal because this next Aquatail won't even get them into the yellow health range. So, we are now going to try and throw on good timing. I was expecting they're probably not going to get 2 Breaking Swipe debuffs in a row, but they do, which is really unfortunate. At this point, there's no point staying in with my Drapion. The next Aquatail will not KO, so they're going to get off Breaking Swipes up against my Dragons anyway, so might as well swap out there. They go for another Breaking Swipe, and they get yet another debuff to my attack. This Steelix clearly hadn't heard of the Breaking Swipe nerf because they just keep on getting debuff after debuff after debuff. They're also going to shield now. I'm going to let the next move go through, and they get yet another debuff, but we do at least make it to an Aquatail. Surely this does KO from this range, right? Yes, it does take out the Steelix finally. Goodra, little jump there to show it was excited for finally getting rid of one of the hardest Pokemon to deal with this team. And here, we're actually going to go for an Aquatail on the CMP tile. Of course, this is resisted damage. It's not going to do too much, but I want to throw it before they get off a charge move because realistically, I'm not going to be able to land a Draco Meteor in this matchup anyways. And now here, I'm going to overfarm. I'm going to continue farming with my Dragon Breath damage and then swap when I feel like they are in range for me to take them out with a Crunch on my Drapion, and there we swap. We also gained a ton of energy on our Palkia, banking it for whatever is in the back, and it's going to be a Skeledirge in the back, which is absolutely huge. We can now go for an Aquatail. Aquatail will get them reasonably low there. We now come in with our Palkia, and this Aquatail is going to hit so much harder. We're at back-to-back charge moves. We got the final shield with the Aquatail, but the second Aquatail coming through takes out the Skeledirge, and we're able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there, Palkia coming in clutch in the end game. Into next battle, we're going to see a Gliscor in the lead. So I've got 2 Pokemon that aren't going to take super effective damage from an Earthquake, so I'm going to swap into my Goodra. The opponent tries to catch an Aquatail there, and we are able to go for a Power Whip because we hold onto the energy. The opponent going to use their shield there, and we are also going to use a shield. So I'm going to shield up the Icy Wind. Icy Wind probably wouldn't quite take us out there, but I don't think we're making it to a second Power Whip if we don't shield that up. So going to go for Power Whip number 2. Grabbing both shields from the opponent. They're still going to have to throw to take us out, so at this point I think I will just let the Goodra go down. I think if I shielded there and even made it to another Power Whip, that might not guarantee a KO since we were 2 stages debuffed, but we're now going to come in with the Drapion. The opponent's going to go for another Icy Wind. They're going to swap back into their Gliscor now, so at this point I'm just going to go for the Aquatail. I'm basically going to force the opponent to full send an Earthquake here. I'm not planning on shielding, and the opponent does full send the Earthquake, taking out the Drapion. It's all down to Palkia, and here I'm not sure if they had enough for another Earthquake here, so I'm going to shield anyways. It's just a Night Slash bait, and unfortunately the opponent does get off another charge move here. This is just another Night Slash though, so that is fortunate for me. And we are going to see that the opponent's going to wait out the switch clock here, come back in with the Poliwrath. I'm going to overfarm, and once again hoping they've got a Pokemon in the back that has very little fast move pressure, and it's exactly that. It's a Greninja, and because I overfarm so much, I'm able to make it to a Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor one-shots the Greninja, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Drapion into Galarian Stunfisk. So seeing a few steel and ground type Pokemon in the lead, I'm going to swap into my Goodra just because I feel a little bit more comfortable here than up against the Steelix, because of course Steelix had actual dragon type damage to hit for super effective damage, and the opponent's going to come in with a Cresselia. Now I'm going to go for an Aquatail here. It doesn't really matter which one I throw first. I'm going to be able to make it to a Power Whip anyway, so going to let this move go through. Moonblast doesn't quite take us out. I commit to the Power Whip, and we do just barely get there, although so it was actually a lot closer than I was expecting it to be. I'm not going to use a shield there because I don't really want to. I'm not going to flip that matchup unless I expend probably both my shields, which I don't want to do. I want to save my shields for my Palkia since it is the glassiest Pokemon on this team. We're now going to overfarm with the Drapion. We're going to throw on the CMP tie, and Crunch from this range should be enough damage to take out the Cresselia, and the opponent is going to probably come back in with their Galarian Stunfisk, and they do exactly that, but we're going to be able to make it to back-to-back Aqua Tails before the opponent even makes it to a Rock Slide here, so that's huge for me. The second one coming through, I tried to throw on the CMP tie with a potential Rock Slide, but the opponent should be going for an Earthquake here to take us out, because Rock Slide will actually not quite take us out from this range, and it doesn't take us out there, so I'm going to overfarm. I try to throw on CMP with the next Rock Slide. The opponent read that, and they swap and catch the Aqua Tail onto their Shadow for Alligator, so we're going to bank another Aqua Tail before swapping into my Palkia. At this point, I'm going to shield this up. Could be an Ice Beam. It's probably going to be a bait. It is the bait. It's just a Hydro Cannon, which we double resist, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. We're now going to go for an Aqua Tail. From this range, it would take out the Feraligatr, so we grab the final shield from the opponent. We're now going to shoot up the next Hydro Cannon here, and the opponent does have a Rock Slide banked, I believe. So we're going to go for one Dragon Breath. I didn't expect them to throw straight away. Aqua Tail will be grabbing the final shield, and the opponent's going to overfarm here, put them into the red health range, and that should be Aqua Tail range there. They also full send an Earthquake, which was definitely unnecessary. Palkia, not very bulky, but an Aqua Tail now takes out the Galarian Stunfisk, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, another Steel type in the lead, so we are going to stay in initially. What we're going to try to do is hopefully catch a resisted Zap Cannon onto my Goodra. It will be quite difficult, but we get the defense drop, and we swap, and we make that catch. Typically, they're just going to go straight Zap Cannon, no reason to go for Focus Fast, even though it does do, I think, the same damage as a Zap Cannon. It is, of course, less energy, but it doesn't have that debuff chance, and luckily for me, I don't think they debuff me there, and I go for an Aqua Tail. I think I might live a Focus Fast, but I don't want to put them into, or I don't want to put myself into lock-on farm down range, so I just use my shield there. I'm hoping Aqua Tail with the debuff to their defense will KO from this range, but it barely doesn't. They do make it to another charge move, and from this range, Focus Blast actually doesn't quite take us out, and we get the Dragon Breath farm down, and we even make it to an Aqua Tail. It was just a Feraligatr that comes in, and we, yeah, so that's not going to do an awful lot of damage up against that Feraligatr, but that's fine. We're now going to come in with the Drapion. I'm going to go for a crunch here, and I will probably try and catch a charge move, but I didn't expect them to throw straight away here, so unfortunately not able to catch the first Hydro Cannon, but I'm going to overfarm in this matchup, and then swap, catch the next Hydro Cannon onto my Palkia. This is double resisted. It really does not do much damage, but they've got a Jellicent in the back now. Honestly, I feel like my win condition here is if the opponent doesn't expect me to full send a Draco Meteor, because I'm certainly not going to be able to fire off two Aqua Tails and then make it to a Draco Meteor. So I full send the Draco Meteor, and unfortunately the opponent does shield. And honestly, look at that Dragon Breath damage. We've already got them close to the red health range. I probably should have just spammed Aqua Tails and then come in with my Drapion. I also didn't expect them to be one away from my Surf, but at this point in time, it is game over anyway, so I don't even know why I'm firing off a crunch here. They're going to let this go through, and then they can just Shadow Claw, farm me down with the Feraligatr, and we do end up losing that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Drapion into Pidgeot. Now, Pidgeot, bit of an awkward lead matchup. Typically, they just full send a Brave Bird. I always no shield, so I'm going to go for a crunch here. And the opponent, since they do no shield the first charge move, makes me think that they probably are just going to go for that Brave Bird. But no, it's a Feather Dance. The one time I shield, and it's just a bait. So here, we're going to come in with the Goodra. I'm like, you know what, if they Brave Bird, then so be it. But the opponent is going to go for another Feather Dance, and then swap into Giratina, and even if I was running Draco Meteor at this point, we are double debuffed, so really would not do much damage whatsoever. So we're going to go for the Aqua Tail here. Does not do much damage at all. They go for a Dragon Claw, they will be able to fully farm me down at this point, so not ideal for me, but we go for a Power Whip, doing slightly more damage than the Aqua Tail, although not really that noticeable. We're now going to come in with the Drapion. I'm going to overfarm in this matchup because these Dragon Claws, they're not really going to hit that hard, and of course Shadow Claw is resisted damage, so going to let back-to-back Dragon Claws go through. Going to continue to overfarm here, throw just before they make it to the next charge move, and a crunch from this range will be taking out the Giratina, and the opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Swampert, so I'm going to go for the Crunch. I'm hoping they just let this go through here, but Crunch is going to be shielded. We're now going to swap into my Palkia, and this is a really important call. Are they going to full send the Earthquake here? I'm calling that it is the Earthquake, and it is, and now we will be able to outpace them to back-to-back charge moves before they make it to the next Earthquake. So we go for the first Aqua Tail. Got to be careful of a catch, but they don't make the catch, and Palkia able to win CMP. Aqua Tail takes out the Shadow Swampert, and I will just be able to Dragon Breath, farm down the Pidgeot, so the opponent concedes the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Empoleon in the lead. So I'm going to stay in this matchup initially. I think I will probably try and catch a move. I tried to catch the move there, but the opponent holds on to their energy, and they come in with a Kingdra. So going to go straight for the Power Whip here, of course. Power Whip is going to be neutral damage because they are part water, and the opponent's going to go for a full Dragon Breath farm down, allowing me to make it to an Aqua Tail. This is double resisted damage, but the opponent's going to shield anyways. They are 2 shields down now, so I'm going to come back in with my Drapion. I'm expecting it to be Empoleon double dragon here, but let's see what we're going to do. I'm going to no-shield the first charge move here. The opponent goes for Octazooka. They don't get a debuff, which is huge. I'm going to go for Crunch because I don't think Aqua Tail would quite take them out there, as it is non-stab. Maybe it would have done, but I just play it safe. Go for the Crunch, and the opponent's going to come in with the Empoleon here, and honestly, I anticipate that the opponent's probably going to expect me to try and make a catch there, so I'm actually just not going to do that. Sacrifice the Drapion. They go for the Drill Peck. They're expecting the catch, but they've got Shadow Dragonite in the back, and that's probably one of the worst dragons just because the Dragon Breath damage is absolutely destroying us. They hadn't even thrown a charge move, and they got us as low as we got them with an Aqua Tail. That is crazy there. Obviously, you can see my Palkia IVs are really not good. I just traded for one, I think, or used whatever one. Went to around 2500 CP, so yeah. If I had better IVs there, maybe I could have won that game, but it didn't look likely. But anyways, GG's to that opponent there. Very well played. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Drapion up against a Skeledirge. So my entire team does pretty well into Skeledirge. They have to go for Disarming Voice here, so I'm going to let this move go through. I'm then going to see the opponent's going to swap into a Quaquaval, going to bank a lot of energy, come in with the Goodra. I don't expect them to close combat straight away, and it's just an Aerial Ace. So actually, I will be able to live another Aerial Ace very comfortably. So going to let this move go through as well. Then I will farm and throw just before they make it to the next charge move. Aqua Tail wouldn't KO since they are Water type, so we go for the Power Whip, taking them out there. And if they go for a full Incinerate farm down, I will actually make it to another Aqua Tail here. So we grab the first shield from the opponent, and the opponent is going to go for the full farm down, but they then snipe with Golisopod, so very smart play there. I mean, it didn't really matter if I got off the Aqua Tail or not because that is resisted damage, but now we're going to come in with the Drapion. I'm going to shield this up here just because I want to go for that Crunch. Crunch will hopefully get a debuff, and it will at least guarantee the final shield here, and Crunch does get that shield, and we do get the debuff as well, which is huge. Now we can come in with the Palkia, don't have to shield anything here as the opponent's just going to go for an X-Scissor. We can go for a full Dragon Breath farm down, and then I'm going to be able to Dragon Breath, farm down the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. It's actually a person on my friends list, so GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Sylveon in the lead. So of course, not running Sludge Bomb, and honestly, I wasn't too keen on dropping Sludge Bomb, but then of course, crunch for stuff like Cresselia and other Pokemon like Giratina, where we might struggle a little bit with our dragons in the back, is certainly needed. But unfortunately, up against Fairy types, Aqua Tail just doesn't do the same damage that a Sludge Bomb does, of course, but we are going to get them fairly low already. So I'm going to shield this up. The opponent probably going to bait with a Side Shock, which we would live, but I don't think we'd make it to an Aqua Tail anyway, so I can just guarantee either both shields from the opponent or switch advantage. We get both shields, so now I'm going to swap into my Goodra. I don't think this is enough for a Moonblast. Honestly, wasn't counting the Charmers whatsoever, but it was just a Side Shock, so I'm able to live that fairly well. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Shadow Poliwrath, so I'm going to go straight for the Power Whip here. Of course, this is going to hit for super effective damage, getting them into the red health range with the Dragon Breath damage. Now, I've got an important call to make here. Are they going to full send? And okay, no, they're actually going to swap into their Shadow Swampert, so now we just play it safe. I shield whatever they throw. If they full send an Earthquake, all I have to do now is build up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails, actually build up even further than that just to guarantee this does KO. Aqua Tail takes out the Shadow Swampert, and even though it is resisted damage, this Aqua Tail will be enough damage to take out the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see Drapion into Guzzlord, so this is an awful lead matchup for us. Not really sure what to do here, so we are going to go for a crunch. Of course, all my charge moves are resisted, but I've also got 2 dragon type Pokemon in the back, so I think what I'm going to do is just wait until the opponent does throw their energy, and then I will swap into my Goodra. Now we can come in, we have debuffed their defense. I don't really want to shield this because they're probably just going to swap out afterwards anyways, but they go for a Dragon Claw, and they do swap into Calissopod. Here we go for the Power Whip, but unfortunately losing CMP. At this point, I probably should have shielded that up. I thought if they're running Aerial Ace, we can probably live that, but it is a Stab X Scissor, which does a lot more damage. Unfortunately, we don't live it. Now we come in with the Drapion. We're going to go for a crunch just before they make it to the next charge move, and the opponent is going to make it to the charge move here. I probably should shield as well. I'm not really sure what my Palkia, or what I think my Palkia can do in the end game. We do at least get the Dragon Breath farm down, but let's see what the opponent has in the back, and it's another Jellicent. So, unfortunately, not looking too good for us, but the opponent swaps back into Guzzlord. I don't think I can get that full Dragon Breath farm down, so we fire off the Aqua Tail, takes them out there, and once again, I'm just going to full send the Draco Meteor. My only win condition is if the opponent tries to 2-shield flex, and they don't, and now at this point, even a Surf will take us out, so unfortunately, we will be losing this game. Guzzlord, very tricky lead to deal with, but GG's to that opponent there. So going into the next battle, we see another Guzzlord in the lead. So let's see if we play this the same. No, we're actually going to swap into our Goodra this time around. So get off that early Dragon Breath damage. But the opponent will make it to a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw going to deal some decent damage there. I'm going to overfarm here, acting as if I've got a Draco Meteor. Unfortunately, we only make it to a Power Whip anyway. So we still end up getting a shield though, which is huge for me. And we've got them into the yellow health range. Now, of course, Drapion can only hit full resisted damage, but we have got them fairly low. And as well, we can sponge this energy a lot better than the Palkia, so we're now going to go for a crunch straight away. Crunch, not going to do that much damage once again, but we do get them finally into the red health range. So at this point, going to let the next move go through. I'm hoping I can snipe with my Palkia, and we do get the full Dragon Breath farm down. They're now going to come in with an Ampharos. This isn't looking too good for us, as unfortunately this is a dragon that takes neutral damage from the electric typing, but we go for the Aqua Tail. The opponent is going to fire off their charge move here. Now, I'm not certain if I'd go for a CMP type, if it would quite take them out there, but the opponent overfarms, which allows me to make it to another Aqua Tail, and it does take them out, and they've got a Skeledirge in the back, so that's absolutely huge for me. And now we can just go for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail from this range won't quite take out the Skeledirge, but it doesn't matter. We still got that shield as the opponent didn't throw their energy from the Ampharos into our Palkia, so I'm able to Dragon Breath farm down the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we see a Gengar in the lead. So a good matchup for us. The opponent's going to stay swap into Tapu Fini, and unfortunately, once again, not running Sludge Bomb, so this isn't that good of a matchup. But I've got 2 Dragon-type Pokemon in the back, so also not ideal. Of course, we've got coverage with Power Whip on our Goodra, but it does take quite a while to get there, so I'm actually just going to go for a second crunch here. The opponent lets that go through. We get 2 debuffs, and at this point, I'm now going to be able to swap Catch the Surf onto my Palkia, which is double resisted, so very nice for us. And because of the debuffs, we can just Dragon Breath farm them down, although actually I probably would have preferred if they weren't debuffed there, because they weren't making it to a Moonblast either way. So now they're going to come in with a Virizion. I'm going to shield up a Leaf Blade. We're going to overfarm here. We're going to throw, we did build up a ton of energy, so the opponent might shield this up, and they do shield it up thinking it is a Draco Meteor. Unfortunately, we don't quite get there to the next Draco Meteor, but the opponent's going to double shield anyways, continuing to overfarm, and that allows me to make it to yet another Aqua Tail, and that is persistent damage, but we get them very low with just Dragon Breaths and an Aqua Tail. So at this point, the opponent will finally throw a charge move. They go for the Leaf Blade. We come in with the Goodra. I'm not expecting them to blind throw a Stone Edge, so the opponent goes for Leaf Blade, doesn't do much damage, and the opponent's just going to concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game, we're going to see a Drapion into Abomasnow. So pretty good lead matchup for us. The opponent's going to save swap into Dragalge. Now, we don't have a great response, so what I'm going to do is hopefully try and catch a Aqua Tail onto my Goodra if they throw straight away, but they don't throw straight away. Now here, this is just dumb. I'm going to let this move go through. I didn't realize there was enough energy for an Outrage. It one-shots me. We give up switch advantage, and now things are looking awful. Honestly, here, I should have just come in with my Palkia, get that Dragon Breath farm down, but now I'm forced to throw a charge move. Crunch will be enough damage to KO, but they're going to come in with a Toxicroak, which is a great answer to Drapion, as we are hitting full resisted damage with the Poison Stings. These Aqua Tails, yes, they're doing more damage this season, but still not quite enough to threaten a shield. We go for a second Aqua Tail, not going to do that much damage either. We come in with the Palkia, I'm thinking here, I'm just going to shield the first charge move. The opponent goes for a Mud Bomb bait, of course they do, and now they make it to a Sludge Bomb possibly. It is the Sludge Bomb, it does big damage there. They come in with the Abominable Snow, they can just Powder Snow, farm me down, and also throw a charge move straight away into the Drapion. That was a battle that I certainly could have won if I just shielded up the Outrage, but stupid play by me, and GG's to that opponent there. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Ampharos in the lead now. Of course, we've got 2 dragons in the back, only one does take resisted damage. As well, typically, Shadow Ampharos is going to be running like Brutal Swing and then maybe Trailblaze as a second charge move, so we should resist this. They're probably not going to be running Thunder Punch, but they are actually running Thunder Punch, and now they swap into a Charizard, so that's fine with me. We can go straight for an Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail is going to deal some nice damage, super effective damage, and actually doesn't quite two-shot them, but with a few more Poison Stings, we will put them into range. So I'm actually going to shield this up, go for the Aqua Tail, and then if they shield this up, which I'm expecting them to do, I'm going to swap into my Goodra, and I'm hoping I can just Dragon Breath, farm them down before they make it to back-to-back Dragon Claws. So the first one coming through, I actually don't think I need to shield, but they don't even get there anyways, which is huge for me. Now they're going to come in with a Galarian Moltres. I'm going to throw just before they make it to an Ancient Power. Aqua Tail doesn't do too much damage here, but I should be able to live an Ancient Power though. It is non-stab, it's also not the strongest charge move. They won't try to snipe with their Ampharos, so I'm going to go for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail doesn't quite take them out there, but they're forced to throw their energy, otherwise I could Dragon Breath farm them down. And now we can come in with the Palkia, get the Dragon Breath farm down, and I should just be able to Dragon Breath farm down the Moltres, so the opponent's just going to concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game we see Drapion into Cresselia, so a pretty good lead matchup for us. Of course Moonblast still does hit for neutral damage, and Cresselia is very bulky, so I don't think, unless we get a debuff, Crunches are going to be able to two-shot this Cresselia, and yeah, it certainly doesn't, but we do get that debuff, so hopefully the second Crunch will deal enough damage so that we don't have to tank a second Moonblast, but the opponent's going to swap into their Shadow Ampharos, so we're going to respond with our Goodra immediately. Going to let the first move go through, could be a Dragon Pulse, but it isn't, it's just the Brutal Swing. Now we're going to go for a Power Whip. I'm hoping this does KO from this range, but they live with 1 HP, and it was actually a CMP tie, which is really painful, as Brutal Swing will get us very low. That is brutal, to be honest. And now I'm actually going to let them get me even lower, to the point where Cresselia can't really get too much farm there, and I can still outpace them to a Crunch. Crunch still not going to KO the Cresselia from this range, and they let that go through, so I also don't really want to shield my Drapion either, so I'm going to let this move go through. They go for a Moonblast. I'm going to overfarm here. I didn't farm as much as I possibly could have done, but I didn't keep track of their energy. We go for an Aqua Tail, and they've got a Poliwrath in the back, and things are not looking too good for us now, because unfortunately they can just go straight Icy Wind, and they will actually be able to fully counter farm me down before I can make it to a Draco Meteor after baiting twice with an Aqua Tail. And actually I don't even know if I will get off another Aqua Tail after throwing this Aqua Tail, so it's not looking too good for us. We've got both shields from the opponent though, so that is kind of good because we are debuffed, but it doesn't really matter. The opponent will be able to go for a full counter farm down, and they're not in range where a Crunch will KO, but I'm going to send it anyways just for science to see how much damage it does. And it doesn't quite take them out there, so the opponent is able to counter, farm down the rest of my team, and unfortunately we do lose that game, but GG's to that opponent there. Into next game we see Shadow for Alligator in the lead, so I'm going to swap out straight away, catch a resisted Hydro Cannon onto my Goodra, and the opponent is going to stay in with the Shadow for Alligator initially, then come in with a Giratina. So I'm going to let this first move go through. I will overfarm in this matchup here, once again pretending that I am running Draco Meteor. I'm going to throw as late as possible, and we're going to go for an Aqua Tail bait here. Aqua Tail really doesn't do much damage. The opponent does call that we're not running Draco, and this Aqua Tail also not going to do too much damage there, but we do get them into the red health range, so that's fine with me. Going to come back in with the Drapion. I'm not going to throw straight away. I'm instead going to build up some residual energy here. The opponent actually gets a boost with the Ancient Power. It doesn't really matter though, as this will still KO anyways from this range, so we take out the Giratina, and I'm once again going to try and catch the next Hydro Cannon onto my Palkia. They are at it right now, so I'm going to swap immediately. The opponent does hold onto the energy though, so this could be an Ice Beam. I'm going to shield. It is the Ice Beam, so we do correctly shield that up, and now the opponent is going to stay in with their for Alligator. I'm going to throw at the last second. The opponent makes a catch, but it doesn't matter, as it's a Kanto Rapidash, and we can fully Dragon Breath, farm them all the way down, and now I can just safely shield up whatever they throw. Doesn't matter if they bait, they're not going to make it to another charge move. I'm able to Dragon Breath, farm down the Shadow for Alligator, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see a Golisopod in the lead. So we are resisting the Shadow Claw damage, which is quite nice for us. I'm going to go for a crunch straight away, not expecting them to catch the first charge move immediately, and then not able to make a catch. So they're just going to fire off the charge move here. This will be a liquidation, so I'm going to go for another crunch straight away. I did wait one turn just to make sure they didn't make a catch there. The opponent going to use their shield. We get the debuff to their defense, and now going to bank a ton of energy and swap into a Shadow Regirock. So I'm actually not sure if it's better to go for Power Whip or Aqua Tail in this matchup. Of course, I will need 2 Aqua Tails to KO. Bear possibly could have outpaced them to the charge move. I'm thinking they're not going to take me out with a Stone Edge, so they full sent a Focus Blast there. I do correctly shield it up, and they've got a Giratina in the back. Now, we still haven't revealed our second charge move yet, so I'm once again going to go for a Power Whip, and I grab a shield from the opponent. Now, what I'm going to do here is not throw my charge move at all. What I want to do is make sure the opponent is still fearing a Draco Meteor. If I go for that Power Whip, what the opponent can do is just farm me down. So instead, we're going to make sure that Giratina is basically energy dry. I'm also going to make sure that the Golisopod is energy dry, come in with my Palkia, and the opponent is just going to concede the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next game we see Drapion into a Galarian Weezing. So not ideal for my team. Hopefully they are running Overheat, because that means of course, well I mean Overheat and Brutal Swing, because that means of course they're not going to hit that hard up against my Dragon types. But if they are running Play Rough, this is going to be quite difficult for us. And the opponent is running Play Rough, so unfortunately that does quite a lot of damage. They're going to swap into a Tentacruel, so we're going to go straight for a Crunch here. Crunch is going to be not debuffing the opponent's defense, unfortunately, but we can fire off a second Crunch, and Crunch will still not get a debuff, but I'm going to swap. I'm going to catch the Scald onto my Goodra. Honestly, probably should have swapped into my Palkia, just because of course it double resists the Scald damage, whereas now unfortunately they're going to go for another Scald. Whilst this won't KO, this will put me into perfect farm down range for their Weezing, and as well they're able to get a debuff there, so these Aqua Tails really not going to hit particularly hard. We can go for the first one there. Aqua Tail doesn't do too much damage, and I'm actually not going to make it to another Aqua Tail after this one, so unfortunately that's not going to put them into farm down range either, and they get a huge farm down up against me. We're going to come in with a Drapion. I'm just going to force them to throw their energy. This will also reveal their final charge move, which is just a Brutal Swing, since they didn't want to go for that Play Rough there, but they've got an Obstagoon in the back, and they still got both their shields remaining, so this isn't looking too good for us. I'm going to shield this up. Hopefully no boost there. As they go for a Night Slash, they don't get the boost, but they will be able to outpace me to 3 charge moves anyway, so I'm not really sure why I'm throwing a charge move here. My only potential win condition is if I get a full Dragon Breath farm down, but even then the opponent does have energy on the Galarian Weezing, so this is certainly game over. Gonna fire off the Aqua Tail anyways, just in case for whatever reason they let it go through, but they do just safely shield that up. Night Slash from this range actually won't quite take us out there, but it doesn't matter. They can counter, farm down the Palkia, counter, farm down the Drapion, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to the opponent there. Into the final battle of this video, we lead into Virizion, and unfortunately we don't really have anything to throw into Virizion, so once again would prefer having Sludge Bomb here to the Aqua Tail, but it is what it is. We're now going to go for a Crunch as the opponent swaps into a Zapdos. I thought it was a Shadow Zapdos, but no, just a regular Zapdos, and that means I will be able to actually tank 2 Drill Pecks here and go for a full Dragon Breath farm down. Now I could have possibly thrown the Aqua Tail here, because once again I'm going to put my Goodra into range where they can actually just fully double kick farm me down with their Virizion, because all these charge moves are going to be resisted damage. They're not going to do much up against that Virizion, so certainly not ideal. This time we're going to go for a Power Whip, and Power Whip will hit for more damage than the Aqua Tail, but once again they get a huge farm down. So we're going to come in with the Drapion here. I'm just going to let this move go through as well. The opponent's going to go for a Sacred Sword there, and they're going to swap into their Shadow Ampharos. So we come in with the Palkia. Once again, unfortunately, not going to be resisting the damage from the electric type attacks here, as we are part water, but we're hitting for huge damage with the Dragon Breath here, so I'm going to shield up the Thunder Punch, and the opponent's going to overfarm here, allowing me to make it to a second Aqua Tail. So I'm just going to fire it off straight away, grab the final shield from the opponent, and at this point they are not at back-to-back charge moves, so I'm going to shield up the Thunder Punch, go for the Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent will have to throw a charge move to take us out here, but I believe they are just one double kick away from the next charge move. We have an Aqua Tail banked, but I wasn't sure if that would KO, so we play it safe. We go for a Crunch, and Crunch takes out Virizion, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today. today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.